Welcome to Chapter 7, Discussion. Writing discussions. Objective, balanced, and unbiased. Purpose of this chapter. Learn how to write effective discussions in your research paper. Present findings objectively without exaggeration. Maintain a balanced tone, acknowledging both strengths and limitations. Ensure your interpretation remains unbiased and evidence-based. Outcome. By the end of this chapter, you will be able to craft a discussion section that is clear, logical, and academically credible.
2. How to structure discussion. Checklist to structure a strong discussion section. Data support. Do my data support what I intended to demonstrate at the start of the paper? Comparison with other studies. How do my findings compare with previous research? Are they consistent? Personal interpretation. What is my personal interpretation of the findings? Alternative explanations. What other possible interpretations exist? Study limitations. What are the limitations of my study? External factors. What other factors could have influenced the findings? Completeness. Have I reported everything that could question the validity of my findings? Reminder. Answering these questions ensures your discussion is comprehensive, balanced, and scientifically sound. 2. How to structure discussion. Checklist to structure a strong discussion section. Data support. Do my data support what I intended to demonstrate at the start of the paper? Comparison with other studies. How do my findings compare with previous research? Are they consistent? Personal interpretation. What is my personal interpretation of the findings? Alternative explanations. What other possible interpretations exist? Study limitations. What are the limitations of my study? External factors. What other factors could have influenced the findings? Completeness. Have I reported everything that could question the validity of my findings? Reminder. Answering these questions ensures your discussion is comprehensive, balanced, and scientifically sound.
3. Structure the discussion. Continued. Continue structuring your discussion with these questions. Flaws in interpretation. Do any of my interpretations reveal a flaw or error in the experiment? New understanding. Do my interpretations offer new insights or advancements in understanding the problem? To be addressed in the conclusion section if applicable. External validity. Can my findings be generalized to other areas? Implications and applications. What practical applications or implications do my findings have? Are there any supporting arguments? Future research. What future research is needed? Will I pursue it myself? Note: questions 10 to 12 are typically discussed in the conclusion section if your paper separates discussion and conclusion sections. Five. Various ways to begin the discussion. 1. Remind readers of your goals in a single sentence. Example: one of the main goals of this experiment was to attempt to find a way to predict who shows more task persistence. 2.
Refer back to the questions in the introduction, hypotheses or predictions. Example: these results both negate and support some of the hypotheses. It was predicted that greater perfectionism scores would result in greater task persistence. Start your discussion by restating goals or referring to hypotheses to create a clear connection between your introduction, results, and discussion.
6. Start your discussion with clarity and relevance. When beginning your discussion section, clarity and relevance are crucial. Instead of jumping into random details, connect your discussion with the key elements of your research, your goals, hypotheses, or previous studies. This creates a logical flow and helps your readers immediately understand the context. For example, you can start by restating your main goal in one concise sentence, like, "One of the main goals of this experiment was to identify who shows greater task persistence." Alternatively, you can link back to a key hypothesis. These results both confirm and challenge the predictions regarding task persistence. Always guide the reader smoothly into your discussion by reminding them why the research was done. This sets the stage for a clear and impactful interpretation.
Build your theory by telling a story. 7. Let's move to your discussion structure. A powerful way to engage your readers is by telling a story. Treat your variables, data, and findings like characters in a novel. Instead of isolating each element as separate facts, connect them into a coherent narrative that flows naturally. For example, rather than explaining each variable individually, variable A increased, variable B decreased, show how they interact. As variable A increased, it triggered a reduction in variable B, suggesting an inverse relationship critical to understanding X. This approach helps your audience see the bigger picture and follow your argument effortlessly. Craft your discussion like a story, making it easier for readers to grasp the significance of your findings through logical connections.
8. Strengthen your argument by comparing with others. Let's enhance your discussion by making effective comparisons. Comparative discussions help demonstrate where your findings stand in the broader research landscape. They make your argument more credible and robust. Start with a simple statement summarizing your key finding, then mention previous research that directly relates to your result. Don't just list studies. Explain how your findings connect to or differ from theirs. For instance, you could say, unlike Smith 2020, who observed a declining trend, our study found a consistent increase, suggesting X factor may play a stronger role. This strategy shows you are aware of the field, capable of critical analysis, and contributes to advancing the knowledge. Make your discussion stronger by bridging your work with others. 9. Wrap up your discussion effectively without a conclusion section. Sometimes your paper might not have a dedicated conclusion section. Don't worry, you can still make a strong closing statement by ending your discussion with a clear summary. This helps the readers walk away with the key takeaways from your work. After discussing your findings, briefly explain how your results might apply to other settings. Would they hold true elsewhere? You can also highlight how future studies could improve on your approach, such as refining a model or method. Acknowledge any limitations and be honest about areas you couldn't fully explore. Finally, offer your recommendations or suggest directions for future research. End your discussion with a summary that reinforces your contribution and leaves a lasting impression. 10. Clarify who the author is. When writing your discussion, you'll be comparing your work to others, but always remember, your reader doesn't know what you did unless you make it clear. Vague phrases like, "it was suggested," can confuse readers because they don't know if it was you or another researcher making the point. To avoid this ambiguity, use active sentences whenever possible. For instance, say, "we suggest," or "previous studies have suggested." This simple change makes your writing clearer and more engaging. Just don't forget to follow your target journal style guide, as some may prefer passive structures in certain contexts.
11. Prepare for objections. Your discussion isn't just about showcasing your findings, it's also about anticipating how others might question them. A great way to strengthen your paper is by preparing for objections in advance. One way to do this is by acknowledging that your interpretation might not be the only one. You can admit when there is uncertainty, present alternative viewpoints, and explain if your data could actually support another interpretation. Don't stop there. Give clear reasons why you still stand by your conclusion, and end by firmly stating your own interpretation. This makes your discussion more balanced, credible, and persuasive.
12. Bring a little excitement. Your discussion section doesn't have to be dry and monotonous. Adding a touch of excitement can make your writing more engaging and memorable. One simple way to do this is by using emotive adjectives like convincing, exciting, or massive, and powerful nouns such as advance, breakthrough, or proposition. For example, you might write, "This approach offers an exciting proposition for future applications." However, it's crucial to use this type of language sparingly. If used too often, it loses impact and can even sound unprofessional. Always make sure it aligns with the tone expected by your target journal.
13. When you are not 100% sure. Sometimes your research will raise points you can't verify fully. In these cases, it's better to acknowledge the uncertainty rather than make bold claims. Using phrases like "it appears" or "it seems" helps you present the findings without overstating the evidence. For example, instead of saying X causes Y, you could write, "It appears that X influences Y under certain conditions." This makes your writing sound more cautious and academically honest. Reviewers respect careful wording because it shows you understand the limitations of your own work.
14. Criticize respectfully and constructively. When you question other research, always do so respectfully. Criticizing other work does not mean dismissing it. It means identifying gaps or areas for improvement. Readers will appreciate balanced critiques that focus on advancing knowledge rather than attacking other scholars. For instance, you could highlight that prior studies are too general and your work explores a more specific context. Or you might explain how your study addresses limitations found in earlier work. Another approach is to point out hypotheses that haven't been thoroughly tested and explain how your study fills that gap. Aim for respectful, constructive criticism that builds credibility.
15. Address limitations positively. Let's talk about how to discuss your study's limitations. Don't let your limitations ruin the impression of your work. Handle them positively and constructively. A common strategy is to acknowledge the limitation, explain why it occurred, and show that you are aware of its impact. You can even point out that other authors have faced similar challenges, which reduces the negative perception. For example, you can state the limitation clearly, explain it was due to lack of data or theoretical models, outline how it affected your results, and back it up by referencing others who faced similar issues. This approach makes your writing more balanced and fair.
16. Choose the right words. Let's focus on word choices when presenting limitations. Wording can make a huge difference in how your work is perceived. Instead of using negative phrasing like limitation, reframe it positively. Combine sentences to be more concise and use softeners like although and only. For example, don't say, "The limitation of this paper is that the two surveys were not conducted in the same period. This will affect our results in terms of..." A better approach is, "Although the two surveys were not conducted in the same period, this will only affect our results in terms of..." This version sounds more balanced, reduces negativity, and keeps the reader focused on your main message. Remember, smart word choices make your writing more persuasive and professional.